What is going on, people? I'm going to sit down and explain to you absolutely everything that I've learned over the 12 years on how to actually get shredded, how to get a sick physique, how to look good for summer, the complete guide that coaches would normally charge you tens of thousands of dollars for. I'm going to give to you all of my knowledge and basically treat you like a friend and be like, look, do this if you want to go from this to this. This is what you should do to look like this. Big shout out to E-Man for sending me a few crates of these. We need to be caffeinated before we go into this video because I'm going to be going over some groundbreaking topics. I'm going to be running away from every personal trainer that wants to kill me for revealing all the secrets of the fitness industry to you for free, right? There's like a cult, a fitness cult, and they're like, don't tell them, Mo, we're going to fucking come after you. I'm telling you, I'm doing this for you boys. First things first, man, before we get into this, mindset is the biggest thing that this is all going to revolve around. If you haven't got the right mindset for this, if you're not mentally prepared, you're even going to fail before you've even begun. I used to have an eating disorder, like straight up. I would have been classed as having a binge eating disorder. Like I would try and diet and I'd just end up stuffing my face and binge eating with loads of food, and I'd break and I'd emotionally eat, and then I'd end up putting all the weight on that I lost and looking like a million times worse. So going into this, you want to reframe the way that you think of it. So I want you to keep this in your mind through the entire thing. If you're losing weight, you are going to be hungry. You're going to be things. You're going to be tired. You're going to feel exhausted at times. You're not going to want to do it. But the difference from me or someone when they binge eat and someone that sticks to it and pushes through is the person that has reframed that thing in their mind. They know this thing is coming. So for example, I know that I'm going to be hungry on my contest prep for my men's physique show. And I fucking love that feeling, bro. Like I tell myself, I love being hungry. I love being tired. I love that feeling, that suck, that like where you feel a certain way. Like I know I'm gonna feel like this. I accept it, and rather than being like, oh no, I wish I could have a fucking pizza. I know I can have a pizza if I want to. I'm not gonna eat a fucking pizza. I tell myself, fuck this food, fuck the pizza. What you've got to get into your head is just tell yourself that you don't fucking want it. Reframe it in your mind. Tell yourself that like this feeling of hunger, this feeling of like you are doing this for a reason, and this feeling is good. It is part of the process. It means that you're going in the right direction. You're not going to lose weight without feeling hungry. Like that's literally what hunger's for, to stop you from losing weight. So you got to accept that you're going to get hungry, and you've got to accept, you got to be like, yes, I fucking love this feeling of hunger. Like fucking bring it on. Same with shitty food. I'm not like, oh, I wish I could have a Five Guys right now. I'm like, I'm choosing not to have a Five Guys. I don't want to eat that shit. That shit does not align with my goals and that end goal and the person I want to be. So reframe, boys. And the final thing worth noting is discipline. Like discipline, your mind is a muscle that can be trained. Discipline can be trained. So the more times we do a behavior, the more times we do something, whatever it is, if it's open up Pornhub and fap into porn, the more times we do that, the more likely we are to do that again. So when we choose to do something, whether it's good or bad, whether it's like, let's say watching porn on the internet, for example, every time you make a conscious decision to give into that thing, to do that thing, we reinforce the neurological pathways associated with that thing. So literally, if I drink this stuff every single day and I choose to do it, I'm going to make this a habit. It's going to automatically happen. It's the same with discipline, boys. If you cheat on your diet, if you start and then quit, if as soon as it gets difficult, you quit and you're like, oh, I'll just do it another time. Like you're going to be conditioning yourself to be a fucking quitter, and it's going to get harder and harder to change. So when you're met with these decisions where it's like a right answer and a wrong answer, difficult choice and easy choice, just think about what is truly at stake here. Ultimately, it comes down to you have to be willing to do what the average person isn't willing to do to achieve anything above average. You might have heard the saying that abs are made in the kitchen, and that is kind of true because diet is the most important thing to focus on, and we're not going to make it mega complicated like doing all these crazy maths calculations, like calculating your TDEE and maintenance calories, then moving 10% of this based upon your daily activity and doing all this crazy shit. We're going to keep it super simple and then break it down into like a 3-level system. But you got to understand that if your diet's not locked in, you're going to remain a fat, gluttonous piece of shit for the rest of your life. What gets measured gets managed. On this journey, we're going to want to track 4 things. We're going to want to track our weight every single day on the scales in the morning, how our weight changes using an app like Happy Scale to track it, or Physique Incubator if you remember on there on my platform. Training, so you're going to log the amount of reps and sets that you're doing. Track your food, track your steps. I will explain more about all of these in a second. But what gets measured gets managed. So we need to track these things in order to make sure we're progressing in the right direction. And if we're not, we can look at these things and tweak them very slightly. We're doing the rest of this video shirtless. It's like 35,000 degrees in this room right now. I'm literally fucking sweating. Diet is the most important thing, hands down. You probably heard this a million times before. Obviously, if you watch videos like this before, you need to be in a calorie deficit. The way to lose weight is to make sure that you're burning more calories than you are eating. That is literally it. There is nothing more to it than that. People on Instagram will love to complicate things and be like, oh, your insulin response, and oh, sugar, and oh, if you're eating high sugar food, it's fucking a load of BS, my guy. Like, it's absolute shit. There's nothing that's inherently bad. Protein, carbs, and fats, we're going to be using all of these things. Any kind of extreme is not a good thing. So carnivore, fucking stupid. Vegan, fucking stupid. Keto, fucking stupid. Things work for a reason. And there's a reason that people have eaten in a certain way for tens of thousands of years. This is the dumb level 1, 2, and 3 guide to how to diet for dummies. I have created the super simple upside down pyramid funnel thing for levels 1, 2, and 3, basically explaining what you should do. So at the very top is level 1. Level 1 is the most simplest of levels, where if you're starting out, this is where you want to start. So what you want to do in terms of food is make healthy choices. Like, everyone knows what fucking healthy food is, bro. Literally just eat 3 to 4 meals a day of whole, unprocessed, good food. Every meal should have a solid source of protein, at least 30 grams. Every meal should have a solid source of carbohydrates, about a handful. Every meal should have a large amount of green vegetables in order for this thing to quantify as a meal. If you want any inspiration for foods, I'll put a cooking ebook down below, which I'll make available for $3. Fuck it. Why not? Feeling incredibly generous. For the first 300 people, it'll be $3. So if you click on that, you might have to get it for absolutely disgustingly cheap. Next thing you want to do is track your steps. 10,000 steps every single day, because 10,000 steps burns about this many calories, which is really, really good. Before you're doing cardio, before you're tracking any meals, you basically want to be doing all these level 1 things first. And then the third thing you want to do is your training. You want to be on a structured training plan. I'll talk a little bit more about training in a minute, but just make sure you're on a structured plan and you're not just going to the gym and doing whatever, because you're not going to make any progress. Then what I want you to do is do all of those 3 things. So do all of those 3 things and track your weight every single day. You can track your weight every single day with an app like Happy Scale, but basically you want to weigh yourself in the morning, same time every single day. Do all of these things. You're making your healthy choices. You're not snacking, and you should get a good amount of weight loss from just doing this alone. Don't overcomplicate it. Just stick to these things. And then basically what you're going to want to do is make sure that the weight on the scales on average is going down. So try and lose around 1 to 2 pounds per week. When you've lost enough weight, your body's basically going to adapt to what you're doing. So you're going to have to change some things up. Then that is when you go on to level 2. So keep everything else in place, the structured plan, the 10,000 steps, the healthy choices, but now we move down to level 2. Cardio. Cardio is often done way too much by people, so you don't want to actually bring this in until you've done all the level 1 stuff. Fuck doing all these stupid influencer cardio routines. Literally, all you want to do is get on a treadmill and walk. Put the treadmill at maybe maximum incline, and then set the speed where your heart rate is around 130 BPM. So you control the speed based upon your heart rate. If your heart rate's at 110, then you speed it up. If it's at 170, slow it down. But try and make it so your heart rate sits about 130 BPM. And the reason for that is because we are going to adapt to cardio over time. As we become fitter, our body is basically adapting to something and we're becoming more efficient at doing it. So if you do cardio on 5 miles an hour for a year, you're going to be a hell of a lot more efficient at burning calories at the end of a year than you were at the start, which means you're going to be burning less calories on the same amount of cardio. But if you go by a heart rate, that's an indication of how many calories you're burning in a certain amount of time. 3 times 30-minute cardio sessions per week, walking on a treadmill, maximum incline, start at that. Then what you want to do as well is you want to start half tracking your food. So you can fully track everything if you want. I'll touch on this in a second, but you can start half tracking your food. And what I mean by that is doing a rough calculation in your head, ensuring that you're getting the right amount of protein per day and roughly the right amount of calories per day. So what that might look like is at the start of the day, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to have 4 meals. I'm going to have 200 grams of egg whites, 2 whole eggs for breakfast, and then I'm going to have some chicken breast, then I'm going to have some beef, and then I'm going to have a protein shake as well. That will roughly equal 200 grams of protein for this amount. So you're kind of adding it up in your head. You're like half tracking. So in terms of protein intake, what you want to do is you want to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body weight. You do these things, you start to lose weight, and the weight loss slows down. Now it's time to move on to level 3. Level 3 is macro tracking. So this is where you're going to track everything that you're eating in an app like MyFitnessPal. You've got to understand, right? If you want to get to sick levels of physique, like the top guys in the fitness industry, you want to get really lean, really shredded, you have to be tracking macros. But like I said at the start, if you want anything above average, you have to be willing to put more than average effort in, and that includes tracking macros, boys. You don't have to do it forever, but whilst you diet and get into this shape, you're going to need to do it, especially on level 3, because it just kind of takes you to that next stage of physique. Do you need to track everything? No. So I don't track any vegetables. Any green vegetables, I don't track. I don't track things like spices or herbs or sugar, diet-free drinks. Like if you're dieting, these are really, really good to curb your appetite. Sugar-free, zero-calorie drinks, like really, really good. I absolutely rate them. Caffeine's another great one for curbing your appetite as well, like black coffee, pre-workouts, etc., etc. Code MO if you want to grab any of the best pre-workouts from huge supplements that I use literally every single day. In terms of diet, we just want to keep it really simple. And basically, you go through these levels one thing at a time. You can only go on to the next level if you're doing all the things in that level, and be patient, boys. Give yourself enough time, tick the boxes, and I promise you, if you tick the boxes, you are gonna progress. How do you actually calculate your macronutrients and how much you need to eat and working everything out? So you're gonna be met with hundreds of really complex calculations like total daily energy expenditure, maintenance calories, subtract 350 from this. Fuck all that off, right? Literally, fuck that off. Ignore that. The most simple way to work out your macronutrients, and I've done this with hundreds of clients, like this is the most simple way. People that have lost life-changing amounts of weight and are fucking looking sick to that day with my one-on-one clients. This is what you want to do. I'll put a link down below for a calorie calculator. Literally, just put in your details and find out your maintenance calories. It's probably going to be wrong. It's probably not going to be right. Then what you want to do is get that number that it says your maintenance calories and just take away a few hundred calories. So if my maintenance calories were 3,000 calories, I would start my diet on 2,800 calories. And that is literally it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat 2,800 calories a day. I'm going to track my weight every single day. I'm going to see how my weight changes. And then if my weight goes down 1 to 2 pounds, perfect. I'm going to stay on that. If my weight doesn't go down after a week on average, I'll then take away a couple hundred more calories and vice versa. All you need to do is get your maintenance calories and take away a couple hundred calories from it. And then you make the adjustments based on how your actual weight is changing. Like when people tell you that you need to do all this like ridiculously complex mathematics, subtract this amount to ensure you're losing this amount based on the rule that there is 3,500 calories in 1 gram of fat and then work it. It's a load of fucking shit. Look at the weight, look at how your body is actually changing to what you're eating and make adjustments based upon your change in weight. So if you're not losing enough weight, take away more calories. It's as simple as that. I don't know why people fucking overcomplicate it so much. So protein intake, you're going to want to eat about 1 gram per pound of lean body weight. For me, that would be about 200 grams. Fat intake, I won't go into this in like great detail because it's not an exact science. Fat intake, I would say for the average person, stick between 50 to 60 grams of fat a day, all from very good quality sources. And then what I do is I just eat the rest of my calories from carbohydrates. So I'm currently eating like 375 grams of carbs a day, 225 protein and 50 fat. Those are my personal macros. Yours might be a little bit different. Super simple and easy. Now this brings me on to what kind of foods, what kind of foods should you eat? Okay. Big old Eddie wants you to believe that everything is trying to poison you. I think Eddie is full of shit. He talks about chemicals in food and like this is shit and then doesn't explain why bread is shit or why anything is shit. Okay. We can all agree that eating the majority of your food from unprocessed whole sources is going to be the best thing. So potatoes, for example, are one of the most satiating foods, the things that fill you up gram for gram out of anything at all. It is always going to be better to eat whole food. So rather than eating sweets, eating fruits. Rather than eating crisps, eating stuff like snacking on other things. Or just don't snack at all, you fat cunt. The less processed, the better it is going to be for you ultimately. It's going to be things like fiber, a lot of vitamins, micronutrients in there. There's literally been studies done where people are given diets of ultra-processed food versus clean foods or more unprocessed food. And they find that people on the ultra-processed food diet are more hungry. They don't feel full. They gain more weight. They have less muscle, less body fat versus a typical cleaner diet of unprocessed foods. This absolutely does not mean that everything is bad for you and you should make your own bread and eat nothing but fruit and meat and whole milk. It's fine, man, but just try and eat as much unprocessed stuff as possible. For example, I eat white bagels every day for breakfast. every single day, I'll eat a big, juicy white bagel with 200 grams of eggs, some egg whites, and some lean bacon, and some tomatoes. Like, that is my breakfast every single day. Eating whole, unprocessed foods is going to be better for you. Like, that is the main thing you should do. But also, drinking shit like this, like a sugar-free drink every now and then, is not going to do anything to you at all. Like, it's not gonna. And people talk about chemicals. Have you seen the list of chemicals in an apple? Can you tell me what every one of those molecules are and what it does? If you don't have a clue, then maybe you shouldn't be going through ingredients and being like, oh, this is, I don't understand this, it must be bad. Like, just because you don't understand it, it doesn't mean it is bad. There's a study that gave people loads of different types of foods, and then they created this thing called the satiety index. How full did the people feel after a certain amount of time? And basically what you want to do is you want to eat foods from the top of this index. So boiled potatoes are the most filling thing that you can possibly eat. Then you've got fruits and like oatmeal, so oats, apples, brown pasta. All the way at the bottom you have things like white bread, sweets, chocolate, things that aren't as good for you. So you can clearly see that whole foods make you feel fuller for longer. And a reason for that, or a lot of that, is probably going to be due to insulin response and hunger hormones and other things. Like, when you're eating good foods that have a lot of fiber in, you're not going to get such a crazy insulin response all over the place. What I'm trying to say is, ultimately, you know what healthy is. Eat stuff, you look at the satiety index and eat stuff that's going to keep you fuller for longer. Because even if you're not tracking macros, even if you're just on level 1, making healthy choices, like, you are not going to be as full. You're not going to want to eat. I can guarantee you, if you ate a diet of 2,500 calories of just pure vegetables and boiled potatoes and boiled chicken breast, you're going to lose so much weight. And that is literally because you're probably not going to be able to eat all the meals because you're going to feel so full up all the time. Versus if you ate a diet of like donuts and shit and McDonald's, a large meal from McDonald's is probably like 2,000 calories. And if you've ever eaten McDonald's before, you know that you are still hungry afterwards. Like, you have to physically stop yourself from eating more. Big Eddie, the premise of what he says is correct in the sense that, like, don't eat shit. He's a funny cunt, but equally, like, you can have stuff every now and then. And what I want to say as well is, like, don't be crazy restricted with stuff. Like, even though I'm on prep, if I want to eat a square of Oreos chocolate, if there's something I want to eat, I'll have it, but I won't let it spiral into some like crazy binge eating disorder like thing. The moment you say to yourself, like, I want this, but I can't have it. No, I can't have that. Like, it's poison. Eddie told me this is poison. I can't eat that. You're gonna want it. It's gonna be like there, like a seed gnawing away in the back of your head, and eventually you're just gonna be like, fuck it, and go on like some massive binge eating thing. So if you realize that as long as the majority of your lifestyle choices are good, you're gonna be fine, bro. Ultimately, it just comes down to calories. And like, the reason people say like, oh, insulin and all this stuff, and people are like, oh my god, I stopped eating sugar and I lost so much weight. You lost weight because you stopped eating sugar because you ate less shit. You ate less food. And yeah, so I do find that if I have something really sugary in the morning or like the first meal, that will actually make me hungrier, which in turn is going to make me want to eat more food. But it isn't the food itself that's like doing things to your insulin, like people online wanting to believe that spout absolute dog shit. It's the actual act of like starting the day with that super hyper palatable thing. It tastes really good. That isn't actually a food, like isn't actually filling, it has no fiber, and it just fucking skyrockets the insulin. That's probably going to want to make you eat more food rather than it being like, oh no, my insulin response and all this shit. Like, I've never once thought about my insulin response other than, oh, do I feel more hungry after eating this thing or not? If I do, then I probably shouldn't eat it for breakfast. Before we move on, another thing is make sure you're drinking 3 to 5 liters of water a day. I do not drink enough water, so I just got a bottle on hand at all times. But if you're someone like me and you eat a meal and you're still hungry, you're like a bottomless pit, get some water, bro. And like even a pint or a liter, and like I'm not leaving this table until I drink the water, and that'll help to fill you up as well. You've now got to a point where you've lost a good amount of weight and maybe you're getting a bit hungry. Maybe you've gone through a day and you're having your like boring meals, you don't really like your meals, you want to spice things up, you're following the recipes from my cookbook, you want a little bit extra, okay? So snacking, I would say, is the easiest thing to do. That's like a level 1 thing, removing snacks or removing bad snacks. But what you can do is you can snack on things like apples, oranges, fruits. Like, it doesn't really matter. I've got a sweet tooth, so what I like to do is swap out things like sweets for sugar-free drinks or fruits, or even dried fruits again. But dried fruits are very high in, really high in sugar. It's just pure sugar, which isn't bad, but just if you are having a lot of sugar, try and have it before your training sessions or just after you've trained, just to kind of, so you're using those carbohydrates and putting the energy in the right place. Supplementation, right? There are only really 2 things that you need. And obviously I'm a guy that's sponsored by a supplement brand. I use a fair few supplements, but I will only say to you that 2 of them are essential. The other things are like nice to have, but they're not absolutely essential. Thing number one is a protein, a high quality whey protein powder. Huge does really good ones. They've got these new cinnamon flavors, which are absolutely insane. It's honestly the best thing that I've ever had in my entire life, but any brand will do, as long as it's a good high quality protein. If you get cheaper brands, it's not going to taste good. Limit to 1 to 2 scoops a day. Don't have like 4 scoops to get your protein intake, because whole foods are going to be better. Second thing is creatine. Creatine is going to make you perform better, get more reps, increases in strength. It rephosphorylates ATP. It's a nootropic as well. 5 to 10 grams of creatine a day. Again, any creatine is completely fine. Huge sell some if you want to support me, if I've helped you out on this video. If you want to grab anything, code MO, but you can get it from anywhere as well. Next up, we have training, and training is probably as important as diet. Like, they're kind of hand in hand. So I'm starting with the most important things. Contrary to what every old big jack guy in the gym tells you that's on every single steroid known to man, the one thing that you do not want to do when you start cutting or dieting or trying to lose weight is doing high reps and low weight. Oh, I used to do this after some very bad advice, and it is an absolutely fantastic way to ensure that you get small and have zero gains. You do not want your training to change at all, whether you're bulking or cutting. You should be going into the gym and aiming for progression, aiming like you're trying to get stronger every single session. And there is absolutely no reason that you can't progress for 4, 8, 12 weeks into a diet, depending on how fat you are. If you're really fat, you can probably progress for months into a diet. So I've lost, like I said, 10 pounds in about 6-7 weeks of a diet. I'm still progressing on all of my lifts other than some chest stuff. So you should go into the gym and aim like you're fucking training to hit PRs every session. Basically, you want to ensure that week by week, you're either doing a bit more weight or you're doing an extra rep. You're pushing yourself, you're working to the limits, and you're trying to progress every single session. There's going to be a point where you can no longer progress when energy starts to dip. But every session, bro, you got to realize that if you're hanging onto your strength, if you're progressing, you're probably going to be gaining muscle. And if you're not progressing and you're hanging onto your strength and you're still able to pump out those reps, you're going to be maintaining it. And that's the main thing you want to do. If we start to lose muscle, then we start to lose like the amount of calories that we need day by day. So muscle is very important. And this brings you on to cardio versus weight training. Weight training, as per the pyramid, should be always prioritized over cardio. Doesn't matter if you're a girl, doesn't matter if you're a guy, doesn't matter if you're a fucking LGBTQ XYZ xenomorph identifies as they, them. Like, you want to always do weights over cardio. So like, a lot of people go to the gym and they'll just do cardio, and then they don't understand why they look skinny fat. So the reason for that, I could do a whole video on being skinny fat, but the reason for that is because you want to lift weights because you want to gain muscle. When you gain muscle, you're going to burn more calories. Like, literally, having muscle burns more calories. Like, when you do things, when you lift weights, when you move around throughout your day, it's going to increase the amount of calories that you use day to day, versus someone that's not got a lot of muscle but could be the same weight as me. Because they don't have the muscle that isn't burning as many calories, they're going to need to eat a lot less food to diet. So what happens is, when you don't have a lot of muscle, when you don't weight train, when you just do cardio, your body will start to eat into your fat, but your muscle as well. And then as you begin to waste away because you're not doing any weight training and you're not gaining muscle and you haven't got a good foundation there, you basically get to a point where you're super low on the calories, you're doing loads of cardio, and then you're not losing any more weight, you're still fat, and there's nothing else you can do. Versus if you weight train and you ensure that you have that muscle there which burns those calories, and you keep doing those things, and then you add cardio in on top of that, you're going to be eating a lot more food and have a lot more room to move down and not end up skinny fat. In terms of numbers of days training, the sweet spot for me is 5 days a week, or training 2 days on, 1 day off. So I either do a 5-day a week plan, something like pull, push, legs, rest, upper body, and then a legs and arms if I want to prioritize my upper body a little bit more. Or my personal favorite is a 2-day on, 1 day off split. So you train for 2 days, have a rest. Train for 2 days, have a rest. Basically 4, 5, 6 days, all completely fine. Don't train for 7 days, need a rest. 6 days probably a little bit too much for me. And then in the terms of style of training, what I recommend is a high intensity, low volume approach. So what I like to do is every set that I do is till absolute failure. I only count my sets where I fail, like where I'm like, I can't physically do any more reps. And there's no one way that's better than the other, okay? Like, obviously you can do like a 4 sets of 8 to 12, 4 sets. I used to do that. Like, I did that for a few years. But in the last 4 or 5 years of training, I've done this high intensity, low volume approach where I'll only do maybe, let's say on chest press, I only do 2 sets, but both of those sets are to absolute failure. And the reason I do that is because there's good science to support that it works well. And I fucking fucking love it, bro. If you go to the gym and you give it 100% effort and you can't physically move any more weight and you're on a structured plan and you do that every week and you see the numbers increasing, you are gonna be gaining muscle. It's great for your mind, it's great for time, it's a super efficient way of training, and it's really, really easy to quantify as well, because you know if you've gone to a failure. It's either a yes or no. Have you gone to failure or have you not? And the thing with like an RPE based training model, so for example, rating of perceived exertion, do you know where people are like, oh, go to 70% of your 1 rep max, or like go 65% effort? Like, that is going to vary depending upon how you're feeling on that day. And how do you quantifiably gauge 65% effort on calves versus 65% effort on chest? It's basically made by small people as an excuse to slack off in the gym and not give it all of your effort. Keep the intensity high, keep the volume the same, whether you're bulking or cutting, and really, really try to progress week by week. I stick to 6 to 8 sets per muscle group per session. Anything over that is probably going to be junk volume, a waste of time, and there's just no reason to really do it in the gym. 10 to 15 sets per muscle group per week is completely fine. So I'd suggest training everything twice a week. Track your workouts. Like, it's a little bit annoying, it's a little bit tedious, but just track your workouts in the gym, especially if you train alone by yourself. If you want to be one of these people who go to the gym for years and years and years, like the dads you always see in there, and lift the same weight and look exactly the fucking same with their mediocre physiques, like, don't track your workouts. But if you actually want to progress and look good, you need to be tracking your workouts. What gets measured gets managed. What you can do is use an app like Strong or Rep Count and just track your workouts and just ensure that you're progressing every single week. Or you can look back when you go into the session and be like, okay, I've got to beat this. This plan has 15,000 downloads already. So this is an awful business decision for me. I will put a free plan down below that follows this training approach for high frequency, everything twice a week. If you're doing cardio on a treadmill, do not hold onto the fucking cardio machine, bro. I see it every day in the gym, like people holding on at an incline, supporting themselves. What the fuck are you doing? Like, it's just the metaphor for any shortcuts people are going to take, even if it means they get no result. So as long as they think, oh, I'm doing some form of cardio, it doesn't matter if I completely fucking cheat it and nothing happens. Like, bro, don't hold onto the cardio machine, because like, you're going to be burning less calories. The whole point of having an incline is so you're walking in an incline, it makes it more difficult. But holding onto the machine, you're making it easier for yourself. All right, so this has got to be mentioned just because it seems super boring, but this is so important. On my hierarchy of importance in this notebook, this is probably the third most important thing that's tied with cardio and steps, and that is sleep, boys. Ensure you're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. There are literally studies showing that people, when they are sleep deprived, over a long term, they have a greater percentage of body fat, they lose less body fat when they diet, they lose more muscle when they diet, and overall they have a less lean physique with less muscle and more body fat from lack of sleep. They also get greater cravings from sugary foods, their risk of injury increases, and they're not as strong. From all of this, just from being sleep deprived, which is freaking insane. So I would say to you lads, try not to drink caffeine after 3 p.m. Like, no gnarly pre-workouts after 2-3 p.m. If you are training in the evening, grab something like the pump serum from Huge. It's got no stimulants in it. Really, really good. Prioritize your sleep, because that'd be the difference between good and great results. Like, I'm doing a competition in, I think I'm 12 weeks out from my men's physique show now. And I know that if I get 6 hours sleep a night, which I definitely could do, the version of me that gets 6 hours sleep a night versus the version of me that gets 8 hours sleep a night is going to look very different. Like, the 8 hours sleep a night me is going to be bigger, more muscular, more full, leaner versus 6 hours. So I'm just trying to remember that and realize I've got to be disciplined with sleep as well. Because I love staying up late and doing that shit. Finally, in this hierarchy of importance is micronutrients. Obviously, you want to be making sure you're getting 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day. It's going to affect things like testosterone. Sleep as well is going to directly affect testosterone. But what you're actually eating is going to affect testosterone as well. If you're eating shit, if you're not getting the micronutrients in, if you're not getting good healthy fats, whole food is always going to be better than supplementing stuff. In terms of supplements for cutting, like I said, whole food is always going to be better, but your himbine, if you get into like a really, really late stage of a cut, absolutely fantastic for fat loss. The only non-banned natural fat burner that actually works. Caffeine is good as well. So coffee or like energy drinks, just don't have too many of them. It is a fat burner and a stimulant. It curbs your appetite. Vitamin D, high quality fish oil, and then creatine and whey protein. I wouldn't even bother buying BCAAs or anything like that. Absolute waste of time. But yeah, if you want to get any of those supplements, all of the ones that I'm listed there, including BCAAs for some reason, are sold by Huge. So code MO if you want to get 10% off your order and support me, because that's kind of the way that I make money from these videos, which is really, really sick. And yeah, people, let me know what you think. Remember, if you want to grab the cookbook, $3 for the first 300 people. I've put so much time into this, 30 plus pages of recipes. There's a shopping list, there's 30 plus meals, all different types of foods, all different types of meats, keeping it interesting, exciting, and it's all very, very macro friendly and healthy as well. If you want help with your training and a structured training plan tailored to you, Physique Incubator is my platform where you'll get a custom meal and training plan, all this done for you for £25. If you want to work with me directly as well for accountability, problem solving, etc., I do offer one-on-one coaching as well, although I'm currently full at the minute. There's a link down below for the waiting list, and I'll be in touch as soon as a spot becomes available. Anyway, people, I hope you got some value from that. I'm now shirtless in front of the green screen. Peace out. I love you to bits. Thank you. Good night.